All right, this January 23rd, 2022 meeting of the Union Township Zoning Commission is now called to order. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Would like to remind anyone that plans on speaking tonight to please fill out a form and bring it up to Craig, the gentleman down at the end of the table. All right, our first item is selection of officers tonight. Does anyone want to nominate someone for chair? Is anyone interested in being chair?
I hereby nominate Eric Lewis to serve as chair for the ensuing year.
I'll second.
Who would like to be vice chair?
I would like a learning year first.
All right, so it's going to be Carol, Daniel, or Bill, vice chair,
Daniel.
Let
I nominate Daniel.
but I don't want to.
That's fine.
All right. Want to nominate
I nominate Daniel.
Daniel for vice chair? I will second that. Mr. Wright, would you please call roll?
Mr. Flaherty, I'll call the roll. I have a motion to nominate Mr. Lewis as the chairman and by Mr. Campbell and a second with Mr. Shannon. We'll take a roll call on that first. Mr. Campbell?
Yes.
Mr. Shannon?
Yes.
Ms. Pelfrey?
Yes.
Mr. Wing?
Yes.
Mr. Lewis?
Yes.
Motion carries. I have a motion to appoint Daniel Campbell as the vice chair, and that was made by Ms. Pelfrey and seconded by Mr. Lewis, I believe.
Yes.
So call the roll. Ms. Pelfrey?
Yes.
Mr. Lewis?
Yes.
Mr. Wing?
Yes.
Mr. Shannon?
Yes.
Mr. Campbell?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Can we turn the audio down a little bit? We're getting feedback, it sounds like.
It's a touchy, Justin might be able to adjust, there it goes, he just adjusted it a little bit.
All right.
So, all right, floor is yours, sir.
All right, thank you. All right, we'll move on to the approval of minutes. Do we have a motion to approve the December 22nd, 2021 minutes?
I'll make a motion to approve.
I'll second it.
We have a first, a second. Mr. Wright, would you please call roll?
Mr. Wing,
Yes.
Mr. Shannon?
Yes.
Ms. Pelfrey?
I abstain. I was not here.
Mr. Campbell?
I also abstain.
Mr. Lewis?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you. We have one case tonight, I believe. Case 1-22-Z, PD zone change request submitted by KRR Real Estate. Mr. Wright, would you provide a summary of the text or of the plan development application?
Mr. Lewis, if you don't mind, I'll
Oh.
read off the application here.
Oh, I'm sorry. So you're going to be, all righty. Craig, I apologize for that.
No, thank you.
That's a hard habit to break.
The only case tonight is 122-Z. The applicant is the KRR Real Estate LLC. The applicant has applied for a zoning map amendment requesting two parcels totaling 13.5 acres be rezoned from B1 business to PD plan development to allow for the development of a recycling and convenience center. The applicant is proposing a consolidated concept formal plan as permitted in the PD plan development district regulations. The location of the proposed zoning map amendment is near the intersection of Whiting Creek Boulevard and Olive Branch Stone Lick Road. The subject property is situated on the east side of Whiting Creek Boulevard within the Olive Branch Stone Lick commercial corridor as identified in the 2030 Union Township Comprehensive Land Use Plan. Some project history: originally in 1991, the zoning of the property changed from residential and industrial in case number 9-91Z to B1 business with the creation of the commercial subdivision. Since then, the land has remained B1 business and undeveloped. Some land use and zoning characteristics. Property in the immediate vicinity is zoned B1 business and R3 planned multifamily development. R3 is located directly to the east, with all remaining surrounding properties being B1 business. Additionally, State Route 32 runs along the northern property line. Land use in the vicinity is predominantly commercial, with office-like industrial uses situated to the west of the project. The remaining R3 property is vacant with light vegetation and no present plans for development. Relation to the Union Township zoning resolution can be found on Article 6, Section 680 through 687. The Union Township Fire Department has reviewed this zoning map amendment case for the proposed development and has no issues regarding the applicant's proposal as submitted, and therefore recommends approval of the development and zoning change, with the understanding that final development details will confirm compliance with fire and life safety code requirements. The staff review and analysis review of this particular zoning commission application indicates the proposal is consistent with the recommendations of the adopted land use plan. The site consists of 3 buildings along with parking, stormwater detention, management and recycling storage areas. Building 1 is proposed to be the office and truck depot with floor area of 2,500 square feet and the height of 28 feet. Building 2 is the solid waste transfer facility with a floor area of 5,625 square feet and a height of 32 feet. Lastly, Building 3 is the largest at 24,000 square feet and 32 feet in height. Building 3 will contain the construction and demolition, recycling, debris, and operations. Of the 13.5 acre site, 4.87 acres is designated as recyclable storage area. Greater detail is needed with regard to the type of storage and use for this area. Roll-off containers and screen bays with designated storage areas are preferred, with large exterior piles of materials prohibited. The back .42 acre storage area along State Route 32 shall be eliminated in favor of preserving the existing vegetation and reducing the visual impact along the roadway. The proposed development maintains buffering throughout the site. Existing vegetation is set to remain along the majority of Olive Branch, Stone Lick Road, and along portions of Winding Creek Boulevard. Landscape buffering is provided between the facility and the existing vegetation along Winding Creek Boulevard in the form of 3-foot tall shrubbery buffer. From a technical review standpoint, the applicant has furnished the required elements necessarily set forth in the PD district plan. The required buffer yards have been provided on this parcel. The additional landscape buffer along State Route 32 will satisfy the minimum 10-foot buffer along all roadway. While some specified details have been excluded from the plan documents submitted, sufficient final development and permitting process. Statement shall be made that the existing vegetation along Olive Branch Stone Lick Road will remain at a minimum of 10-foot buffer zone, preferably 20. Total landscape open space contained within the plan is 3.55 acres, or 26% of the site, which is 16% over the required open space minimum. Additionally, the building lot cover is low at 7.25%. The site is larger in nature and contains restraints from overhead power lines and topography through the site. The proposed facility should be designed to allow for both residents and commercial businesses to access a local recycling facility. The addition of the recycling drop-off area for residents to bring their everyday home items would be a positive impact for the community. The ingress-egress of the site off of Winding Creek Boulevard will allow for safe access for truck and vehicle traffic, along with quick access to State Route 32. Proposed signage has been included in the application. Signage shall be limited to 15 foot in height from grade. The applicant has only indicated one sign. Additional monument signage along State Route 32 shall be considered, as the proposed site has additional road frontage. Lighting has been included within the application. All lighting shall be downward directed, dark sky compliant. The properties will need to be consolidated upon the issuance of a zoning certificate. Landscaping has been included within the parking lot locations on site, along with pedestrian access around the proposed buildings. Pedestrian access shall be defined between the office building and sorting facility to ensure safety to employees and customers. The action required is in accordance with section 680 through 687 of the zoning resolution. The zoning commission is to enter a motion to recommend approval with some modification or denial of the applicant's request to rezone the subject property from B1 Business District to PD to Plan Development as submitted, and with any further modifications deemed appropriate. Should the zoning commission choose to consider the applicant's proposal, the following modifications to the PD formal development are recommended. One, the applicant address the concerns of the county engineer, Clermont County Water and Sewer District, and the Union Township Fire Department during the final development approval. Include split face concrete block at a minimum of 6 foot in height for any side of the building visible to the public. Additional blocks shall be concentrated around the entrance of the C&D building, subject to administrative review and approval, mirroring proposed office construction specifications. All signage shall be limited to a monument signage capped at a height of not more than 15 foot from finished grade provided, subject to administrative review and approval. 5, provide a detailed plan for the recycling storage areas. Roll-off boxes and designated bays for the storage of material shall be required method throughout the site. No uncontrolled piles of debris shall be located or placed on the site. Eliminate the .042 acre recycling storage area along State Route 32, preserving as much vegetation along the roadway. Add 6 foot landscape buffering planning, subject to administrative review and approval. 7, consolidation of the 2 lots shall be completed before the issuance of zoning certificate or occupation of any proposed building. Provide additional landscape along the north State Route 32 property line consistent with the other proposed landscape buffer, subject to administrative review and approval. 9, provide an increased buffering zone to a minimum of 10 feet along the road frontage of Winding Creek Boulevard. Provide a detail on the landscaping plan stating the existing vegetation along Stone Lake Olive Branch Road will remain at a minimum of 20 feet. Provide a local recycling area with bins on site. This shall be designed to utilize by the community to dispose of home recycling materials. And 12, to provide pedestrian access between the maintenance and office buildings to C and D sorting facility.
Thank you, Craig. Is the applicant or the representative here to speak for the case?
Yes.
Could you please step forward and present your case? And identify yourself, please.
I'm Mark Rumpke. I'm the owner of KRR Real Estate. Give you a brief background on my history. Obviously, my last name is Rumpke, so you kind of figure I've been in the waste industry. I've been in the waste industry since I was 16, so 40 years now. And believe it or not, back in the day, a 16-year-old could drive a garbage truck. Most of my life I've spent working for Rumpke. I drove a garbage truck, went to college, got out of college. I was assigned the portable toilet division for Rumpke for a couple of years. Then I went to Dayton, Ohio, and I ran the Rumpke operation up in Dayton, which included a recycling center. Went to Indianapolis, and I ran Rumpke up there in Indianapolis, Lafayette, down to Batesville. Then I went to Columbus for a number of years, and I ran everything from Columbus down to Ashland, Kentucky for Rumpke. In my capacity, I've ran several transfer stations, several recycling centers, and a couple of landfills. So I know how to run them, I know how to run them right. I left Rumpke and started my own company in 2016. I got into demolition, and then I got into dumpsters. I currently own, or part owner, 50% of 2 operations. One in Louisville, which consists of a similar facility to what this is going to be, a C&D recycling transfer station, and we run trucks and dumpsters out of there. Then we started one in Loveland a few years back, and We have the facility in Loveland off East Kemper Road, and we have a C&D sorting facility. We're on 2 acres at that facility, and we've just grown to where we can't be on 2 acres anymore. So I saw this property for sale and had this vision that I wanted to buy this property and have a recycling campus, not just my company, but, you know, down the road, hopefully other companies that are involved with metal recycling, electronics recycling, possibly shingle recycling. But initially, it will just be us to get it going. We want to make this a benefit to the community. We're going to bring in our dumpsters of construction debris, and we're going to recycle that construction debris. But we also wanted to have the ability to offer to the community where they had a place they could bring their trash to. They could bring the stuff that isn't taken curbside, tires, appliances, mattresses, and bring that type of material. Have a metal buyback operation to where anything from farm attachments to aluminum cans they could bring and recycle and get paid back for them. We're going to be doing cardboard recycling out of the construction waste stream, but you know, a lot of people aren't able to put a large number of cardboard boxes at the curb anymore, or they've got, you know, they move and they've got 100 of them, you know, so we'll have the ability for people to bring us their cardboard or paper recycling. Yard waste, if you've ever tried to get rid of a stump or a root ball, it's not easy. I mean, BZAC is great, but they only take so far in diameter. If you got something bigger, it's, you know, so we're going to be taking yard waste from people. And then I've got to hear down the road, I'd like to research and study and possibly put up a building to do electronic recycling, you know. Some of the products that we're going to produce on site is concrete and other aggregate material that's going to go through a shredder and be converted down to 3-inch minus stone. And we'll possibly screen it out and have 3 different types of stone coming from concrete. And I've brought some samples here of what that looks like. The cardboard will be baled on site and recycled. I've talked about the metal recycling. That goes into 50-yard dumpsters and is hauled to Garden Street, which is the largest metal recycler in Southwest Ohio. Wood mulch. Brought some samples of that as well. That's our,
That's for the ash board.
so that right there is made from construction waste. That's what we're doing in Loveland. Clean fill and compost is another thing. A lot of loads from construction sites might be 10% dirt. You know, we'll be pulling that dirt out of there.
We need it down this way.
So that's who I am and what I'm looking to do. I'm going to bring the engineers up now to go over the development plan here.
I've got a couple questions, and maybe want to defer these to the engineers. If you could describe how much of this recycling would occur outside the buildings and how much is inside the buildings? What kind of noise levels are we looking at? And then storage, I know we've got some concerns on storage, outside storage, but is there going to be an outside, a visible outside storage, or is everything, the demolition of the concrete, is that going to happen indoors or outdoors?
So the demolition of the concrete, because the machine shreds the concrete into what you see there, and then it goes up a conveyor belt, drops down, just the same as any gravel yard that you see. That is gonna be done outside.
Outside.
I hope, because the gravel piles will be created outside. All the machinery and the sorting of the material is done inside the large building. So obviously, the demand for mulch doesn't happen, November, probably October through March. So I want to be able to shred the wood into mulch and store it outside. Same with the concrete. I mean, there's much more demand in the spring than there is, so, we'll stockpile it over the winter as concrete comes in, and we process it and sell it in the spring and in the summer.
Is there, do you have a noise level rating, what this equipment typically produces, the concrete crusher?
A decibel reading or something like that?
Yeah, and at a certain distance, let's say at 100 yards, something to that effect.
I can tell you that right now, my office is 50 yards from where they're doing the concrete, and I can't hear it inside my office.
Okay, thank you. Does anybody else have any questions for Mr. Rumpke?
Not at this time.
All right, thank you.
Okay.
The price I pay for being tall. Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Mike Stepik. I work for a firm called Seneca Engineering. Did turn in a sheet. Just here to talk a little bit about the site development, some of the environmental permitting. I'm an environmental civil engineer, been in the business, in this particular business for 26 years. Worked on a number of facilities across the state in Pennsylvania, Alabama, Tennessee, Michigan. Very involved with the C&D Association of Ohio and the regulation review that goes on. So from that standpoint, happy to answer any of your questions. I'm not sure how we're moving the slides, but if we could just go back one slide. There we go. It's magic. This is awesome. Usually I mess everything up, so I'm glad not to have control. As you mentioned earlier in your summary, which is great, the existing property does have existing vegetation, scattering of immature trees, does have some existing ground cover. It is somewhat elevated from the adjacent roads, and we do, later on, Jeff will, my twin will come up and talk about the aspects of the site development. But we do have quite a bit of landscaping plans in the facility design. It does slope from the south to the north, and there's no floodplains that were identified. Go ahead to the next slide. Great. There are 3 buildings that we talked about earlier. From your perspective, the office building on the left of the figure is the office building, truck depot. Then you have the adjacent building, the 2 adjacent buildings to the right, the smaller of which is the transfer station, and the larger would be the construction demolition debris recycling facility. The sizes and heights are already on the slide. Happy to read that if you want me to. And then we do have a couple of site plans kind of designating some of the other areas on property for landscaping, parking, stormwater management, of course, and then the recycling storage areas. Just to mention a few things before I turn this over to Jeff, as Mark mentioned, there is a plan to recycle quite a number of materials. The recycling of construction demolition debris is actually a growing industry here in Ohio and Pennsylvania It's huge in Florida and the East Coast. And with all of the LEED architecture development and a lot of the green infrastructure designations for a lot of projects, a lot of contractors want to be able to designate recycling in their operations now. This is a growing industry. It's actually blossomed quite a bit in the last 5 to 10 years in Ohio, and we're seeing more and more of it. So much so that in the last 2 years, the Ohio EPA is actually in the next few months, should finalize the regulations for these processing facilities, so that the C&D processing or recycling portion of the facility will have a permit, and so will the transfer station. The transfer station permits are fairly typical. We've had them for 30 years in the industry. But the C&D processing will also have a permit that will be regulated by not only the health department, which will inspect them regularly, but also the Southwest District of Ohio EPA. And there will be a permitting process that those will go through as well. So,
Can you show us on the map where the construction debris machinery will be?
sure, if we could, that's the best, the largest rectangular building. And there's some figures and handouts later on in the presentation that a couple other gentlemen that came with me tonight are going to speak to. But that largest building is where the conveyors and the picking line and that happen with the processing of the material.
But the machinery that Mr. Rumpke was described, that does the actual crushing, he said that would be on the outside?
Yeah, the crushing, I would envision, Mark, would be up to the north, closer to 32. And you don't crush all the time. You know, typically you crush when you have enough volume, and it's for a finite period of time, you know, to get that work done. And, you know, I'm sure that could also be coordinated to be scheduled at appropriate times or whatever, if that's the concern.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, my name's Jeff Flaherty. I'm with Cardinal Engineering, a local engineering firm that does more of the site development and utilities. Mike's company kind of specializes in the C&D and the transfer station stuff, where we kind of do the more typical site design stuff. So we're here designing the buildings, how we hook those buildings and the bathrooms to your utilities. From that perspective, it's a pretty common site. We got utilities at the streets, electric at the street, so we'll be able to tap our sewers, or tap our bathrooms into the storm sewers. We got, like I said, electric, gas at the street. As far as the other utilities, the building number 2, the solid waste, when we collect any of the leachate in that, it gets stored in a tank and actually gets hauled off-site. So any of the stuff touching the waste inside the building gets captured, and they will take that hauled away to landfill. So none of that really goes into your storm sewer system. As far as the stormwater management, we're basically the drainage that is there today basically goes in 3 different directions. And we will have 3 separate stormwater ponds on the site to collect the runoff. There'll be one on the front portion of the site, kind of where those 2 roads come together. There'll be another one up in the, I guess that'd be the northwest portion, kind of where that green area is. And then the 3rd pond will be on the northeast portion of the site. If you could, I think I got a better slide. There you go. So I think if you have that in front of you, those are areas that are kind of highlighted in your presentation, in your slide there. So it's kind of hard to see in this, but like I said, in the northeast corner, the northwest corner, and then the southern portion of the site will be 3 detention ponds. We will capture some of that water and use that water for dust control on the site. So we'll take that storm water that's running there, save some of it, and use it for for outside to spray on the stuff to keep any dust from traveling off the site. So, far as that, like we talked about, the existing zoning is kind of B1. We're going for the PD. We think that's a very good use of the site. Obviously, also a challenging site because you got those power lines running through the middle of the site. So this kind of lends itself to not every developer is going to want to come in and can build on this site because you're going to have the power lines right in the middle of the site. So with the way that our operation works, with separating the recycling out and the scale house, so we're able to kind of separate our site into kind of two sites that kind of split the utility lines there. And then that's kind of all I have unless you guys have any questions for me.
As the construction and demolition debris is being processed, is the water being used to maintain and keep the dust level under control, or?
Yes, that's typically how it works,
Is that correct?
especially for the outside.
Okay. Does anyone else have any questions? Mr. Clarity? Thank you.
Thank you.
Video that, the shredder that shreds the wood and the concrete. That is, hold on, flash up, did I email it to you?
Are you able to process that, Craig?
I should be able to, yeah.
All right.
I have a question for Mr. Rumpke. I understand this is probably a very small part of your operation, but what percentage do you estimate the composting is?
By weight,
Just
Probably
overall and what you're going to do.
I saw a chart.
probably 15 to 20%.
And this is going to be coming from construction sites, I understood you to say?
We'll put out dumpsters and people will be doing a site clearing and they'll load it with, wood, brush, root balls, dirt. So like the larger logs we'll pull out, but if it's all mixed together, we'll just shred it all and make a compost pile.
Okay, and then eventually you will sell that?
Oh, yes, so is
Okay, do you have anything, I'm a big advocate for protecting the land. Do you have anything in place to make sure that your compost is clean? It's free of chemicals, paint, anything like that before it goes into somebody's garden?
Well, the material, when we get this video, I mean, it's loaded with an excavator, so it's a scoop at a time, and the operator can see everything that's in it.
Okay,
And I've been doing this for a long time, and yard waste is different than, when the wood's running across the sorting line, if there's paint on it, we can't recycle it, If it's treated wood, we can't recycle it because, it has arsenic, possibly has arsenic in it. So we can only mulch what is clean wood, virgin wood.
so if you get something like that, you pull it out?
Yes.
Okay.
Do you
Yeah,
crush,
that goes to the landfill.
are pallets
Thank
part
you.
of that wood
Yeah,
breakdown? So you will use pallets in the mulch?
yes,
Yes.
yes. Now, if the pallet has an oil stain on it, then no.
What happens to the metal object, the nails and screws and so forth?
The machine has a cross belt magnet, so it shreds it runs it across a conveyor, and it's pulling the nails out and discharging them to
I
the
see.
side.
Yeah, that was, I think, in lieu with what you were asking about, because they do crushed
Okay.
pallets as well. And it looks like 40% is expected to be wood.
Oh, okay.
All right, thank you, Mr. Rumpke.
This is Derek Coleman, the maintenance manager, and he also runs our current street recycling in our office.
All right, Derek, please proceed. Thank you.
First off, good evening. So like he said, my name is Derek Coleman. I am the current maintenance manager and the manager of recycling operations for our current operation that we have going on in Loveland. I heard a few questions being asked of Mr. Rumpke there that I feel like I could elaborate on. So the first question that you asked, Mr. Lewis, was the noise impact of the compactor. The current compactor that we use now is a compactor that is manufactured in Germany. So the first thing that comes to mind when I think of Germany, I lived there for 3 years, I'm retired military, is their quality the standards that they have as far as not only their emissions, but their noise reduction and things like that. They're very, very, they're light years ahead of what I would say that the United States is as far as that is concerned. So the impact, the crush that we have now is called the Aries Impactor 250. Very, very, very nice machine. So like Mr. Rumpke said, to answer your question, there's a sticker on the side of this compactor that says hearing protection is only required within 15 meters of this piece of machinery. So for instance, a standard diesel truck next to this machine will drown out the noise that this machine makes on its own. As far as the actual grinding and crushing operations, it is very, very minimal. For instance, an operator sitting in the cab in a miniature excavator loading material into this grinder, the noise is very, very little. The cab itself drowns out most of this noise. So there's not really a whole lot of noise pollution that comes from this particular compactor. So like I said, the warning on the side of the machine only says 15 meters is required. So that's really not that loud. Your car horn is going to be louder, or your truck horn is going to be louder than what this machinery is. And given the current location of the proposed site, I doubt if they would anybody be able to hear it, to include our closest neighbors, which would be the west side of Winding Creek, in any of their offices. Something else you said about dust control. So you asked about how much of our proposed operation is going to happen outdoors, and that is very, very minimal. So our proposed site layout and our proposed plan for this has the majority, and I would go as far as say roughly 90% of our operations being conducted indoors. So really the only thing that I could see being happening outdoors is going to be the grinding of our sorted materials. And so this grinder that we have, this Aries, it has a built-in dust control sprayer. And Mr. Rumpke, I believe that's one of the videos that he sent. I actually took that video today. So what I did was to conduct a test, I took some of the dirtiest material that we have. I placed that material in the grinder without any of the dust control measures that it has built in. Took a video, and then I done the same thing. Turned on the sprayer, and it drastically reduces, I'd say, anywhere between 90 to 95% of the dust that is given off during this mulching process. So it is very good at doing what it does. They've done a really, really good job designing this over there in Germany, and that's why we bought what we bought, with that in mind. We looked at numerous grinders before we decided this is one that we were going to use. We looked at grinders that were manufactured in Australia. We looked at grinders that are manufactured in other European countries, stuff that were manufactured here in the United States. And this Aries compactor, for what we do and with trying to be as environmentally friendly as possible, that's the one that we wanted to go with. We took all those things in mind. Like Ms. Rumpke said, we are currently on a very small plot of land. We have outgrown that. And we have other buildings that are very close to us, so we have to take that into consideration. And just because we're trying to make a larger site, a larger area, that does not mean we want to get away from that. The compost. So the question, was it Pelfrey?
Pelfrey.
That you asked Mr. Rumpke was the percentage and the quality of the mulch. So like he said, when we do our sorting and the product that we decide is going to be mulched versus not mulched, there's a few factors that factor in with that. So first, the cleanliness of the material. We don't want to be grinding anything that's been stained, anything that's been painted, anything that's been in any or any really close contact with anything that could compromise the integrity of that compost. For instance, I have children. The mulch that I grinded, I would have no problems taking that home and putting that in a swing set, underneath the swing set in my backyard, or using that in my garden. I live out in Brown County, by the way. I'm from Mount Orb. I would have no problems doing that. I've had customers come in, see what we're doing, and they say, hey, I want that. How can I get that, or can you sell me some of that? Which, I tell them, hey, hold off, we're not there quite yet. We're in the planning and processing phase and trying to figure out how we're going to work this out. But it is a very good quality mulch. And we can get that down to anywhere from what we call first run down to a finer mulch that you could use in your flower beds. So we are able to produce a clean product, and we are able to tailor that product versus from a large all the way down to a small size for multiple use. Same thing with our construction and our concrete, our aggregates. Like you see here, that is from what our grinder can do on the setting with the gates open. So the gates open on our compactor creates a larger product. So this product here would be something that you could use for a clean fill operation, for building up your property. If you have a slope on your property that you need to build up, it will suffice for clean fill. And I have stuff that are smaller that you could take and you could put that on your driveway as far as shaping your driveway if you wanted to shape it out. You could use it for, basically anything that you would want to buy gravel from down the road here at Ernst. It would suffice for those types of projects. And so that's what we hope to get to in the future, being able to reduce the amount that is going to the landfill versus the amount that we can recycle, put back into use. That way we get more lives out of our landfills, and there are things that are going to our landfills that need to go to the landfill that we don't have another use for. So we want to reduce the amount of items going to the landfill and try to increase the amount of items that we can reuse, right? So we're trying to be as environmentally friendly as possible. So as far as the operating equipment inside of the main recycling, or the building that we're going to have our recycling operation in. So Mark has spared no expense with this. He has sent me north, south, east, and west. I've taken many plane rides. I've spent many nights, in other states. I've visited numerous construction and demolition recycling facilities from as far as going up north of Chicago. I've been to over into Kansas. I've spoke with many people on the phone out in Washington. They're doing great things out in Washington. We've got some of our ideas from them out there. They're really environmental. They have a lot of environmental controls out there and contractions and restrictions on those, and we're trying to get to that point. I've spent time down in West Palm Beach, Florida. It was nice, by the way. It was in the middle of December. And I spoke with a man down there who we ended up purchasing our recycling equipment from. The man designed it himself. Florida does have a lot of tight regulations when it comes to their construction, demolition, recycling. Not only that, but their MSW disposal. MSW being sanitary waste, which would go to the landfill. And I went down, I spoke with him, I've actually flown down there twice to get an idea of how this operation runs, the best way to get this operation to run. So we have purchased that equipment. We have finger screens, we have shakers, we have conveyors. And the best thing about this is all of this runs from anywhere from 110 to 480 480 volt electricity. So what does that mean? That means we have low noise, less environmental impact. We're not burning diesel fuels. We're not burning, we're not burning gases. So, and it's quiet. We've visited the main company that provides our shaker screen, which is called General Kinematics. They are very, very popular in the construction and demolition world. They provide high quality, machinery, and we have with that. We went ahead and we bought one of those. We visited their shop up outside of Chicago. We were inside of their building. They had, I'd say, probably 15 to 20 different pieces of machinery running in there, and I was walking and I didn't even have ear protection in. So it is not loud. It will not be loud.
But to clarify, the equipment, both indoors and outdoors, is motor-driven, not engine-driven.
So the equipment indoors is ran with an electric motor. So our conveyors, electric. Our shakers, electric, and our finger screens are all electric. They all run off of electric motors. It was designed that way to prevent from having to use like diesel fuels and gasoline.
And what about the outdoor equipment?
So our outdoor equipment, so the Aries Impactor runs off of a Volvo engine, so it is diesel. It does have a DEF system on it, so diesel exhaust fluid that goes into it, so that also helps. So it is compliant, EPA compliant as far as DEF is concerned. The only other thing that we would use outside is nothing more than you'd see ran on farm down the road or another construction site. It's your miniature excavator, your front end loader, and your Bobcat skid steers. That's all really our operation takes to run.
On the mulch, do you not do the coloring, add the coloring to the mulch?
Nope, we have not. We've taught, that's something that we've talked about doing in the future. As of right now, we're just doing first run mulch.
Okay. On the concrete and the debris crusher, that's, from what you described, it's not a hammer slam breaking it up, it's more of a slow grind
Right.
crush?
So I try to tell, I have young kids, I got 2 young boys, they're into the ASMR stuff. And I'm sure you've probably seen them. It's basically the two teeth that come together. That's what it does.
All right.
It's not a hammer. It's not a jackhammer. It's not a chiseling effect. It's nothing like that.
All right. Thank you.
And like he said, like I said before, we are, able to create multiple products with this one crusher as far as sizes, and then the screening. Which is something else. So something that we're looking into right now, which as of right now, I've looked high and I've looked low. There isn't really a clear process for this, but we are trying to look into drywall and plastics repurposing as well. So it's in the C&D world right now. There's conventions that we've been invited to. We have a training session that is coming up here soon, and something that's really big in the world right now of construction and demolition recycling is drywall. What can we use drywall for? So that's what we're trying to do in the future. That's something else that we are continuously trying to look into. So we are where we are at now. That is not our ceiling. We are constantly trying to find ways to further reduce the amount that is going to that landfill by trying to recycle as much as we can. Whether that means pulling out our fines, sending them, getting them tested to see if they could be used for what we call ADC, or alternative daily cover, at landfills. I've worked at, so after I retired from the military, I worked at a landfill for a short time. And while I was there, I did notice that there were companies that were bringing in stuff like that, and when the landfills were taking it for free. And what they were using that for was to cover up versus taking dirt and using other dirt, they're able to use this. So with our screens being able to, our finger screens and our recycling operation being able to break stuff down to those finer levels, that is also something that we can look at versus sending that to the landfill to be buried. We can use that for daily cover, with which, you know, in turn, in the future will compost down and you know, won't cause anything else going to the
I
landfill.
understand. Thank you, Mr. Coleman.
No problem.
Is there anyone else to speak for this case? Please step forward and introduce yourself.
I'm Hannah Lubers. I'm with the Clermont County Water Resources Department, Office of Environmental Quality, and also with the Adams Clermont Solid Waste District. So I realize that's a mouthful, and you all might not be familiar with what those departments do. Corey's a little bit familiar with the Solid Waste District, but my background is in stream water quality. I do kind of watershed management, do some monitoring programs and watershed protection, so I understand where you're coming from with environmental issues being very important to you. And then the Solid Waste District is something that's mandated by the state. Every county has to have one. We're a multi-county district, and we're essentially responsible for reducing the amount of waste that goes to landfills. So this project is particularly interesting to us in the department and everything that we are supposed to be doing. We operate a variety of different programs to help reduce the amount of waste going to the landfills, and those programs are required to give residents different options for disposing of waste, and most importantly, having recycling options for things like motor oil, household hazardous waste, just a bunch of different things that are not supposed to go to landfills, tires, yard waste, things like that. So this was particularly interesting to me, and also Mr. Rumpke did reach out to me several weeks ago, a couple months ago actually, just to talk about his project, and he was interested in what the needs of the community were. So I thought that was a good sign. I mentioned Clermont County, or the solid waste districts, we're supposed to offer options for disposing of different materials, recycling different materials, things like that. And our district has historically had the operating model of we're going to let private enterprise offer these services as much as possible, so we're not going to open any types of facilities unless we absolutely have to. That keeps our fees low. We operate on, our revenue comes from fees that are levied on to solid waste disposal, so fees that are collected at the landfill. There are many other districts throughout the state that operate their own publicly run facilities, and we've historically been able to not do that. In Adams County, we have to operate a waste transfer facility because there is no public company or no private company that's offering that service out there. So we've been able to stay away from that here in Clermont County, but we do have several voids of services in Clermont County. One of those being large item disposal. It's incredibly inconvenient for residents to dispose of things like mattresses, couches, furniture, things like that, if they don't have curbside waste service that can pick it up for them. Oftentimes they'll charge $100 to pick up a bulky item or a large item. They have to wait for your township to hold a collection event. I know Union Township has these collection events, and they can be very costly to operate. A facility like this would offer a much more convenient location for residents to get rid of those items, and I think it will be a lot more affordable for the residents as well. And this is just something that's needed countywide, not just talking about Union Township. The location of this particular proposal seems very centrally located to the county, so I think that's a benefit as well. Mr. Rumpke was talking about offering other services as well, collecting yard waste, being open to the public to collect things like yard waste, potentially tires, maybe electronics in the future. We've had conversations about other things that we could potentially partner with, that they could assist us with offering more convenient services to residents, such as household hazardous waste disposal. Currently, residents have to drive to the city of Cincinnati to safely and responsibly dispose of their household hazardous waste. So if you have a couple gallons of pesticides in your garage that you want to get rid of, what do you do with them? You call us and we give you a voucher that pays for disposal, but you have to drive to Cincinnati to dispose of that item. So if there could be a more centrally located option for the residents, I think that would be better for the environment, because more likely we're going to divert these materials properly and dispose of them properly, like they should be disposed of. So, yeah, I just wanted to say that I believe a facility like this has the potential to be a resource for the residences and also businesses of the entire county, and also be here in case anyone has any questions of the solid waste district. We do have a designation procedure where there are several levels of permitting that a facility like this would have to get. I know they mentioned the CD and D processing facilities would need to get permitted. They would also need to have a designation agreement with our solid waste district as well. So there'll be several levels of steps and negotiations with the company, and hopefully if things move forward, we can partner with them to make them be even greater resource to the residents of the county.
Do your regulations cover noise and air quality?
My department, no. That would be through, the noise, I believe, would be through the air quality permit, and that's out of Cincinnati for Southwest Ohio. They're governed out of Cincinnati.
Okay.
My department, specifically solid waste, handles the waste generation. The health department will be involved. They'll have permits from Ohio EPA. I work for Water Resources, which is the water and sewer. They would likely need to go through our permitting for, potentially for industrial waste pretreatment. Haven't gotten that far down the road yet, but I have had several feelers out on all of the environmental impacts I can think about for a facility like this. You know, when you hear solid waste or construction debris, things like that, seems kind of concerning. But I've done a lot of research on this, and I think responsible parties operating facilities like this, it can be a resource for everyone and with minimal impact to the surrounding community, and hopefully more benefit than impact. We think of impacts to the environment. This is overall a recycling facility. CD&D waste is one of the biggest components of landfill waste. So recycling that material is going to be of a greater benefit when you think of resource conservation. It's known to reduce greenhouse gas consumption, be a big impact on that as well. So I think overall impact to environmental is going to be a positive impact,
All right,
as long as
thank
things
you.
are done correctly.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thanks.
Thank you very much. Is there anyone else to speak for this case? Is there anyone who would like to speak against this case? Please step forward and introduce yourself. Did you fill out a form? Yes. All right, thank you.
My name is Lyle Rupp. I'm an adjoining landowner for the proposed site. My issues are not with any of the environmental related stuff. Simply, it comes down to the location. That we've got a property you're putting into what was proposed as a business development. The businesses in the area all had it as a business development, as a business park. You're now putting into it an industrial component. You've got an area that's relatively small, surrounded by homes. You're getting the expansion that is coming on with the removal of all the intersections, new over ramp, everything. You're developing that whole property, and what you end up with is an issue of, they said no noise. I find it interesting to say.
Well, they said low noise.
Low noise, okay, low noise, but 50 yards away can't hear anything. And I just sat down, first off, understand, I use a lot of recycling facilities. It's material, whether demolition, construction, just simply debris, waste that is generated in business, all those kind of things. I have no opposition to it. It's strictly about the location on the property, that you're decreasing the values of the land. If you don't think it has an impact, just take a look at round bottom recycling They do a better job than most of keeping it, but you're still gonna have the cosmetic of it. You're still gonna have the materials that could overflow. He talked about cardboard. Go look at the Grief Recycling Facility over off Wooster Pike. You'd be hard pressed not to find paper all over the place. It is simply an eyesore, which again undermines or undervalues the land that's in the area. The Rumpke facilities itself in Fairfield, you have BZAC, Evans Landscaping. BZAC's probably the best of the majority of them, and you're still going to be seeing that impact. And you're putting that into, again, a limited area that it goes in there. The noise level that you guys that have been looked at all deal with the demolition, the breakup of the material. But what about all the excavators, the backhoes, the bulldozers that are going to be running constant? It's the nature of the business. Again, a relatively small area. We all were given very specific instructions. I've been before this actual panel in wanting to do some buildings and the guidelines that you've given to me, and it was all about the image that you wanted it to create. And this goes absolutely against everything that you put on us. Tim with Cincinnati Glass was unable to be here. He was run through that same ringer. He has concerns about it, but he's in Florida, so not able to be in town to deal with that.
Could you show us on the map where your property is located adjacent? Craig, could you bring something up?
Well, you'll see the white building on the left. If you can go back to that one, I can show you where I'm located. See the white building right down there?
Yes.
Right next to that, where that land is, I own 4 acres right there.
And what do you have on that acreage now?
Right now, it's empty. We are developing. We had originally planned to build a distribution center for our business. Our company is Snowy Shaved Ice. We were on 32. We just recently were put under eminent domain, kicked out. We redeveloped. I don't know if you've seen the facility over off Heitman. You had a 12,000-foot warehouse there. We bought that. You'll see we spent a great deal upgrading that. We tore that building, gutted it right down to the bones, and rebuilt the place. Again, even the neighbors have commented about the improved look, about the value of the land that comes from something that we add and develop. And I don't feel like this is going to enhance that. Yeah, he's got his cursor over my land now. We cleared the trees. We were going to develop a new warehouse there. We ended up buying the Heitman property. What we were going to do is develop a number of business sites that could be used for the trades and small businesses that are looking for something that are destination sites. Obviously not the ease of drive-by, the impulse purchase. It's going to be a destination perspective. The amount of increased traffic and noise of the trucks coming in, the semis, it's all the ancillary noise. I'm not, again, concerned about the noise coming from the demolition equipment, but the ancillary noise that is simply supporting that and making that operate. In addition to, I've dealt with dust. We've all been there. You can spray all the dirt, all the water you want on it, but water dries. Now I've got more dust, and it's got to go somewhere. Where's that water going? Where's the recycling on it? Where's the waste of just simply dust being taken away? That travels to all the surrounding properties. Again, go take a look. It'll be interesting. Honestly, I don't know the notification. Corey, I know you're leaving, but I was a little surprised as a adjoining landowner. I never heard a word about this or saw a sign. Maybe I missed one. I found out about it today at 4 o'clock. Was first I'd heard about this. So first thing I would like to do is go visit their facility that they've got a 2-acre site. What does it look like? How does it fit? Have you interviewed the neighbors to see what is it really like? There's one thing to come in here. I'm a little surprised that if they're saying that the noise is low noise, first thing I would have had, how hard is it to do a decibel test? You can do that just about with your cell phone today, and yet we have no results on it. And again, the ancillary, go stand at any recycling facility in Cincinnati. The decision's yours, but as an adjoining landowner, I'm concerned. And that's all I can do is offer an opinion that I think I love the idea. I just think it needs to be located somewhere other than right off 32 in an area that was supposed to be developed as a business park and surrounded basically by community in a very small area. I just don't think it's the right fit. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else to speak against the case? Yes.
Well, I know why, and I just want to point out, I know why Mr. Rupp did not get it, because it was RTS'd to us from the mail.
Oh,
So
it was
it's in the
returned.
case file.
What address do you go to?
The P.O. box, I won't name it on the record.
Well, it doesn't matter, it's still on. Your
Okay.
office was actually notified of an
Where we?
address change for 1284 High.
We pull off the tax address, that, they provide off the tax parcels.
Tax records were all updated as well.
Okay, well, this is what, yep,
I'll get it from you afterwards.
Absolutely.
I'll notify the writer.
please do, absolutely,
Thank you for letting me know that.
no problem.
Thank you, Mr. Ray. Is there anyone else to speak against the case? All right, at this point in time, we will,
Mr. Lewis, can I, there's
yes.
an email sent by Tim.
oh, you had that
Gagnon.
video available?
I do, I also have an email from Tim Gagnon, the owner at Cincinnati Commercial Glass at 4365 Wine Creek Boulevard.
This is the one that we have a copy
Yeah,
of?
he had sent me an email earlier today, and he
All
had
right.
asked me to read it off, so
Okay,
I'd like to
thank
read
you.
that into
Please-
the record
Please
now.
proceed.
The following email contains, this email shall serve as my objection to this facility being built on the proposed property on Winding Creek Boulevard, Union Township, Ohio. The following items are the reason we object. We just finished our new building in 2020 at the cost of over $2 million. We built at this location as it was B1 zone and thought we would have businesses of our type or similar properties, not a junkyard. I have had my business in Union Township for over 30 years. We oppose all the noise of crushing material all day long. We oppose all the dirt from the trucks that will be in the air and on the road. We oppose that the air quality can be from the crushing of the concrete and asphalt. We are very concerned about how it will devalue our property. We are concerned what the large piles of scrap, everything will look like. We are concerned how we will be exposed to thieves that are likely to be scrapping stolen parts or materials. Thank you for considering a longtime Union Township business that now employs 20-plus employees, TSG and Cincinnati Commercial Glass. And that concludes the email.
Thank you. And you have that video?
Yes.
There's no sound with the video, or at least it's not playing.
That's just kind of showing, that's when, like you said, we ran some pretty dry material, that's why you see dust off to the side. This is it would actually get water to it, and it just cuts down all the dust. You can see it was definitely flying through the air there and off to the side like the wood in. But that being said, it was also shot on a cell phone. Yeah, and it's upright, so I apologize for that.
All right, thank you, Craig. All right, this time we are going to close the discussion to the public, and we will discuss the merits of the case among ourselves. And you're welcome to sit and listen, but no, only comment from the audience would be the ones that we would request comment from. Thank you. What's everybody's take?
First off, I appreciate the idea very much. I think we need this kind of thing. I went out and spent time on the property. I had multiple concerns, you know, and some of this was addressed by Corey and Craig, but I drove 32 both ways with a vision of a 30-foot high pile sitting there, which would be visible. So, again, that's one thing I wouldn't want to see is the piles of debris standing. You know, we have to look at this from all the different angles. And some of the things that Mr. Gagan brought up, the noise, the dust, and we've talked about that. Personally, I would like to go see a facility just like this before I would approve it, because it is something that's an unknown to a lot of people. We don't, you guys see it every day, we don't see it. And maybe there's enough of them around, and that's a good thing, because they're operating and we don't see them. But again, I do have some concerns about those types of things. I appreciate what they would do with this very much. We need to be taking more control of, reducing landfill waste. But I just have uncertainties about, the factors that we don't know offhand. The truck traffic is another thing can I address Mr. Rumpke briefly?
Yes.
Ask a question. Do we have any idea the level of truck traffic on a daily basis bringing to and leaving the facility? Has that kind of study been done? Do you have any idea what we might be looking at?
Right now, we're 10-hour day, probably 50 trucks, and a lot of these are single axle.
Right.
That are pickup trucks, pulling trailers, and then 50 to 60 trucks a day, and this facility being a larger facility, we close to 200.
Okay.
So about 10 an hour.
Now, we have in the, one of the recommendations from our zoning director was to eliminate that .42
Right, I saw that.
storage area, which is what you would see from 32.
Yes, you do see that. Actually, you see that pretty easily. The one to the east, the bigger area against the property line, there is some visibility if you got height on it. That would be my concern.
Are there, Mr. Rumpke, are there expected to be piles of debris, or is all the debris contained in dumpsters and roll-offs?
The wood and the concrete would be the piles.
So the debris, the only thing that would be in piles would be the wood or the concrete?
The finished product.
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, there would be everything that's brought in here, construction would be dumped inside the building process.
That's the same as what you'd see driving by Bezax or
Right.
Evans, or?
Oxier, and, yeah.
Yeah, I don't know of any other facility doing what we propose it. There's one east of, west of Cleveland up by Sandusky. But I would say for the wood, type operation, yeah, BZAC is similar. They've got a much larger grinder than we'd ever have. And then, just any gravel yard would be the same as the concrete.
What would you expect to be the maximum height of the piles of the concrete and the wood?
I think 30 feet. I mean, if you go back to the video of the machine's probably, you can create a pile that's maybe 12 foot high.
All right. You've got 60, 70-foot piles at Evans and Bezac.
Yeah.
And you have when you're going on 32, you look up the property, and you're looking 2 stories up.
Yeah, yeah. I did it from a motorcycle, so I have a very good view. If anybody complained about somebody riding a motorcycle around that property, that was me, so. Okay.
I mean, also, they consider that we have very strict PD, right? Once a PD plan is approved, only the things that we specify in the plan can be
Right.
accomplished or done on that property. And so, difference between our area and other areas that we don't control is we make people adhere strictly to the PD regulations and approved formulation of the plan, of the site. Anybody, Daniel, you have anything?
No, I don't think so.
Bill, do you have any thoughts? Carol?
I think it's a great plan.
I would like to see I am in favor of the 12 items outlined in the zoning director's report, but I would also like to see a report provided that addresses noise levels, the noise level report, provided to the trustees. If we were to include it, consider a motion to approve, I would certainly want all 12 items included in the motion, as well as in addition of a report on the expected sound levels at various distances, which should be available, and that would be include a decibel level.
I think there should be a time period. You shouldn't be hearing this noise 7 o'clock in the morning, and you shouldn't be hearing it 7 o'clock at night.
Yeah, we've had trouble regulating times on those things, and I agree. I'm not sure we can accomplish that.
We don't have a dedicated noise ordinance in the township, so we're sort of, we get some complaints from time to time about construction activity. 6 a.m. to 9 p.m. is generally what,
Right.
that's the, kind of the window.
But, I want moderate sound levels as well, and so I don't know that we can affect a control over the time, but we should be able to affect control over how loud. And I am familiar with some of this equipment. I've seen it, and if it's a grinding crusher, it's a lot quieter than the hammer slam crushers, for sure. And the dust can be controlled at a point when it's created and as it goes forward. And if it's not, then it can be in violation of the PD. So if there's a dust storm occurring there, we've got an issue that we should be able to address. So is everyone in favor of a conditional approval?
I am.
Yes.
And I would like, and the district that it's in, the Olive Branch district is different, north and south of 32, and being south of 32, there's no, it's not residential, it's primarily business and industrial, and I think if this was north of 32 in the Olive Branch Stanley corridor, it'd be an issue, but I believe it, from reading the 2030 plan, this type of facility does fit south of 32 in that corridor. All right, let me put together a motion that, if everybody's agreed, that we include all 12 items from the zoning director's report, as well as the additional noise level consideration, the noise level report. Now, I will reference, rather than repeat all 12 of these conditions, I will reference them from the zoning director's report. We've done that in the past when they've been extensive. They were already, Craig already read them all out, and I don't think we have a need to reproduce that step. All right, my motion will be as follows. Regarding case 1-22-Z, KRR Real Estate LLC, the zoning commission finds that the submitted PD application and zone change request is consistent with the Horizon 2030 land use plan, but does not meet all of the plan development application requirements of a combined concept formal PD district plan. Therefore, this commission recommends the submitted plan be approved contingent upon adherence to the noted modifications as specified in this motion. All required supplemental information and plan modifications must be completed and submitted to the planning director no later than 1 week prior to the trustees' hearing of this case. I'd like to mention one finding of fact, and that's regarding the corridor. The Olive Branch Stonelit Corridor, the subject property is located within the Ohio Branch Stonelit Corridor south of SR 32, which is a transitional corridor with natural features such as hills, slopes, and streams. This area is ideal for mixed-use residential and commercial development, and planned unit development is the preferred development method for this focus area, as stated in our 2030 plan. I would also include all 12 recommendations as listed on pages 4 and 5 of the zoning director's report should be included in this motion. And additionally, a 13th modification to provide an expected noise level report to the trustees upon their review of this case. That completes my motion. Do we have a second?
I second.
All right, now at this point, we can discuss the motion, now that we have a second. Does anyone want to make any changes to that motion or have any objection to that motion?
I have none.
No, Mr. Chair.
All right, Craig, would you please call roll?
Yes, roll call, Mr. Wing,
Yes.
Mr. Shannon,
Yes.
Mr. Campbell,
Yes.
Mrs. Pelfrey,
Yes.
and Mr. Lewis.
Yes.
Motion carried.
All right, thank you.
Mr. Lewis, this will be heard by the Union Township Board of Trustees at their March 8th.
March 8th, that's when they're meeting now?
Yes, Tuesday, yes, March 8th, I believe, at 6 PM.
6 PM.
All right, March 8th. Does anyone have any, I think that concludes our case review. Does anyone have any new issues?
If the chair will entertain me for just a minute.
I sure would. I
So,
think I know what's coming.
I appreciate the time, Mr. Chairman. I think the word is out. I have talked to you guys individually. I've accepted a new job as the Assistant City Manager at the City of Loveland. And while I am excited and thrilled about a new opportunity, what makes things difficult sometimes is the people you leave behind and the good people that serve this township on the commissions and boards have really been an absolute integral part to my career development and growth and have really enriched my life both personally and professionally. And for that, I thank each and every one of you.
Well, I think
So-
you've taught us a lot. We were very grateful to have you, Corey. We're going to miss you
Well, I'm missing.
very much so.
Thank you.
But we wish you well. I understand
well.
your desire to move. You got to keep rolling and follow
Never
your
need anything, I'll never do it.
heart's
I
desire.
appreciate that. Thank you.
Yeah, we will certainly miss you.
Ms. Pelfrey, I know we've worked together a long time, and Mr. Wing, we haven't worked together as long, but I've enjoyed it, and I've known Mr. Campbell for a long time, and I've known Mr. Shannon and Mr. Lewis since I started here, and I sort of grew up with you guys, so thank you for everything.
Thank you, Corey. All right, if there's any other issues, any old business to discuss? All right, I will call this meeting adjourned at, I think that's wrong, 8:24. Thank you.